Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. We are back again with another Ole Miss commitment coming out of the transfer portal. And former Washington guard Nate Kalepo started all 15 games for the Washington Huskies in the 2023 season. Obviously played for a national championship, was part of the Joe Moore Award-winning offensive line in 2023. And I mean, we started talking about Ole Miss in the transfer portal really about a month and a half ago. And we said, what is Lane Kiffin's biggest goal heading into the portal? And I think he summed it up in that post-game press conference against the Georgia Bulldogs. We got to start looking more like Georgia and Alabama along the line of scrimmage. And he's largely accomplished that goal. And we also kind of said how hard it is to find starting caliber offensive linemen available in the transfer portal and how it's even more difficult to land those guys because everybody's looking to improve their offensive line. Lane Kiffin has done a phenomenal job upgrading both the offense and defensive line. And you talk about this Ole Miss team heading into 2024. It looks like it's ready to rock in the trenches. Want to get into Nate Kalepo, talk a little bit about what Lane Kiffin has been doing in the portal, and then talk about a few more targets for Ole Miss that they're trying to close on to end this transfer portal cycle. Before we get into it, just want to say thank you to you guys and a shout out to the Ole Miss fans. I mean, breaking down pretty much every one of these commitments the last couple of weeks, the amount of support, the nice comments that you guys have left in the comment section, cannot thank you guys enough. That stuff means the world to the boys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And it sounds like we'll be back doing some more updates on commitments relatively soon for Ole Miss. Without further ado, let's get into Nate Kalepo. And I think the first thing you want to talk about with Nate Kalepo is reliability, right? This is a guy that started all 15 games for the Washington Huskies in 2023 and played at an extremely high level. A phenomenal pass protector, 573 pass protecting opportunities. He gave up 1 sack and only 16 pressures. Phenomenal numbers and looked pretty solid against really elite defensive linemen like Texas and Michigan. And you might have saw maybe some struggles against Michigan, but on aggregate, watching Nate Kalepo, he's been extremely solid. And we said from the start, it is hard to find starting caliber offensive linemen who are reliable and have done it at the Power 5 level. Nate Kalepo has done that. He's good in the run game. And I think what excites me most about what Ole Miss has done in the portal is you look at this offensive line heading into spring practice, fall camp in the 2024 season, and we'll do a deep dive into this offensive line unit probably next week as they continue to kind of retool this offensive line. I think the thing I'm most happy about is, I mean, there is a ton of competition. If you want to be a starting five, make that starting five for this Ole Miss offensive line heading into 2024, you're going to have to be great because there are 8, 9, 10 guys on this Ole Miss offensive line that I think Ole Miss feels really good about trotting out there week 1 in the 2024 season. And so you look at kind of the recipe of developing elite offensive lines. I really do think it starts with competition and depth. And when you're getting the best out of guys throughout spring, fall practice, heading into that season, I mean, you know you're going to have a good starting five. And a guy like Nate Kalepo, not only a guy that I think is a plug-and-play starter for Ole Miss, was the 6th best interior offensive lineman available in the portal, but a guy that, I mean, significantly increases the depth and talent level of this Ole Miss team. And he is a physical dude, right? 6'6". I think he's listed up to upwards of 335 pounds now. And this is a guy that is physically imposing, but a good athlete for his size. And again, it's hard to find guys that started 15 straight games for a team that just played for a national championship. I mean, the Ole Miss Rebels just did that. And the conversation about going after Lance Hurd, and we kind of talked about this briefly. I'll give you guys some of my thoughts on it. And you could have gotten a guy, and it sounded like Ole Miss just kind of faded on Lance Hurd. And I think Tennessee obviously was willing to spend the resources to get a guy like Lance Hurd. I think Lane Kiffin, in a very similar conversation, I think the Quinshon Judkins conversation went, is we can use our resources to build our team, and we can allocate a significant amount of those resources to a guy like Lance Hurd, who is no doubt requiring a lot of those resources, and a guy like Judkins. Or we can kind of continue to build the depth of this team and bring in maybe a couple guys on that offensive line. And it looks like that's the route Ole Miss has gone. Because not only are they going after Nate Kalepo, they're going after his teammate too, Julius Buelow, who again started 13 games for the Washington Huskies in 2023. Big, 6'8", 313 pounds, 407 pass pro opportunities, 21 pressures, only 1 sack. I mean, you have the capability of bringing in 2 guys who just started on, again, the Joe Moore Award-winning offensive line, a team that just played for a national championship, and you get two of their starting interior offensive linemen. I mean, I think that's a massive trade-off for maybe one tackle that's into his second year of college football. Really, really excited about what Ole Miss has done in the portal. And you look at kind of Ole Miss and what they've done in the portal. And we got one other guy I want to talk to you guys about. 16 transfers. And you start scrolling down this list. I mean, Nate Kalepo started all 15 games for a team that just played for national championship. Trey Amos, a guy that probably would have been a starter for Alabama heading into the 2024 year. You got a guy like Amarian Walker, who, if the Ole Miss fans have been rocking with the boys for a while, is a guy that I'm extremely excited about being a Michigan fan. I mean, this dude has all the traits to be really good. Yam Banks, phenomenal at South Alabama. Daquan Wright, a guy that I think has a ton of potential to be a difference maker on this offense. And you continue to scroll down. I guess the point that I'm trying to get at is the quality of players. You've seen Ole Miss use the transfer portal extremely aggressively in the past. And I think at times maybe the quality wasn't always so great. You were just kind of taking bodies to build your roster. You scroll down to the 16 guys who are coming into this Ole Miss roster, the quality is phenomenal, right? Walter Nolan, one of the best players available in the portal and arguably the best defensive lineman heading into 2024. A guy like Juice Wells, one of the top wide receivers in the country. Princely U, a guy that probably could have gone to the NFL draft had he wanted to. And you continue to scroll down, and I think the thing that stands out is, yes, the quantity is there. The quantity's been there. The quality of players that they're bringing in. I mean, this is 10-plus starters for this Ole Miss team that's already returning a lot of production. So you're returning a lot of production from a team that only lost 2 games last year, both on the road to Georgia and Alabama. Now you're bringing in maybe 10-plus starters to a team that, again, is already returning a lot of production and talent. Extremely exciting. Now, the last guy I want to talk to you guys about, and a guy that has been on my radar for a while because I'm kind of an NFL draft guy, BJ Green. And I've been watching BJ Green tape because I thought he was going to declare for the NFL draft. He decides to hit the transfer portal, was previously committed to the Washington Huskies, and it looks like Ole Miss is making a move at BJ Green. And again, a defensive lineman that you can move all along the line of scrimmage, but the production at Arizona State kind of speaks for itself, and I'd kind of quantify him as a game wrecker. This is a guy that's 6'1", 270 pounds, plays with a low center of gravity, low pad level, likes to go speed to power, just collapse pockets. So 11.5 tackles for a loss, 6 sacks. That was phenomenal numbers. But the numbers that I've kind of circled, 34 quarterback hurries. This is a guy that is extremely disruptive, kind of just walks tackles right into the backfield, is really good against the run game as well. This would be another massive get for an Ole Miss defensive line that you're already bringing in Walter Nolan. You're already bringing in a guy like Princely U. 2 guys that are difference makers up front. You could potentially bring in another game wrecker like BJ Green. And you already have guys like JJ Pegues coming back. This is an Ole Miss team that, and you guys, many of the Ole Miss fans that have been listening for a while kind of know my take on this, but I think Lane Kiffin looked at this roster and said, we are one of the best teams in terms of skill talent across the country. Right? There's not many teams that can line up against Jackson Dart, Trey Harris, Juice Wells. You bring in a guy like Daquan Wright, Caden Prescorn, Jordan Watkins, probably forgetting a few guys. But the point is the skill on this team is one of the best in the country. So I think Lane Kiffin's going into 2024 saying, all right, where do we need to work on closing that gap? It's along the line of scrimmage. A guy like Nate Kalepo, a guy like BJ Green potentially coming in. That is how you close this gap. An Ole Miss team that I cannot wait to start talking about more as spring practice kicks off and reading what these guys are doing in practice. And obviously that 2024 season, and Lane Kiffin's pushing the chips in the middle of the table. This is a team that can be extremely dangerous in 2024. Nate Kalepo coming to Ole Miss. Massive, massive get. Appreciate you guys, as usual, for rocking with the boys. Can't thank you guys enough for all the support. If you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We might be back relatively soon updating another commitment for Ole Miss. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later.